to discuss.
Okay, so you listen to the Voice of Job Seekers podcast, and I'm actually live here at the National Career Development Association in San Diego. I'm sitting with Erica Madison, One Life Tools, and I don't know what EMCC is. What is that? That's
That is
your
Erica Madison,
consultant.
coaching and consulting.
So tell me about more about your business and that side of career coaching that you do.
I got into career coaching a number of years ago because I had created my own job doing work that was really important to me, working in sustainability at a
Mhm.
time when that was becoming increasingly popular, especially within higher education.
Mhm.
And I found myself meeting with a lot of folks who were interested in that as a potential career path. I was mentoring them, I was providing guidance and advice, working with them on their resumes, you name it. And over time, I realized that was a way that I could be of service, tapping into my degree in psychology and my passion for personal growth and development. And so eventually I started it as a side business while I continued with my work in the environmental space.
Mhm.
And over time, I invested in my learning and development as a coach, got certified through the National Career Development Association
Mhm.
and some other organizations as well. And then most recently, a few years ago, went all in with my coaching practice.
That's funny you should mention sustainability. There's a podcast episode that from many years ago, I talked to a DeVry University professor, and we talked about sustainability. I think this was 2014. For those of you listening, you might want to go back into the archives of the podcast. But we talked about, I think it's still an up and coming industry in the sense that there is still a lot of opportunities out there. And it's probably even expanded more as tech has expanded into
Absolutely.
those areas.
Yes, there are hundreds of millions of dollars in states like where I'm from, Massachusetts, going into the climate tech space. Workforce development for green jobs is a growing area. There are so many needs and so many opportunities. That's something that I'm very passionate about helping people understand. And it's really the case that you may not have sustainability in your job title, but that doesn't mean that there aren't ways that you can contribute your strengths, your interests, your experiences to advance the work that needs to happen around reducing emissions and creating healthier communities.
That's excellent to know. And because people often ask me, so what's the next career? What's up and coming? Where all the jobs are? I've always said that the job market is very splintered. So what is going on over here isn't necessarily going on over there. But I think to some degree that there are some bridges to other careers like tech that kind of takes you to different types of careers. And I think sustainability, I've said that for a number of years since that time, to sustainability is an untalked about but a very tangible career because it's, I guess, for a lot of people, it depends where you are, what facet you are. Because if you work in Arizona, the jobs, the choices are going to be a little bit different there than it would be in Boston, Massachusetts, or it would be in Chicago.
Definitely. There are so many different ways that you can engage in sustainability. There are startups, there's
Mhm.
climate tech, there are well established brands that have robust commitments and that have environmental social governance, otherwise known as ESG
Mhm.
initiatives and roles. There are so many different facets to sustainability, whether you're talking about issues around waste,
Mhm.
circular economy, transportation, green buildings, energy. It's really extensive. So, whatever your background, whether you're coming from more of a human oriented background in the social sciences or communication or something in business or a technical background such as engineering, all of those kinds of backgrounds can feed really nicely into doing work within the sustainability realm.
That's an excellent point. And I think that that's something that job seekers, those of you listening, should look into more of that particular industry, because for you don't have to necessarily have industry experience to get into that particular industry if you're able to connect the dots.
Totally. I got my own job in sustainability because I was advocating for my university at the time where I was doing my master's degree to improve its environmental practices. At the time, it was to create a recycling program for the university, for the campus. And through my organizing and advocacy as a student, I got the attention of the administration, and one thing led to the next. And before I knew it, I had a job as the university's inaugural recycling coordinator.
Mhm.
Over time, that started expanding into things around green buildings, energy use, and so on and so forth. And so advocated for the university to create a new role called sustainability coordinator, which
Mhm.
I then moved into and worked across the university for many years, building that program up into an award-winning program on a
Nice.
local, state, and national levels, getting recognition from the EPA
Mhm.
and the State Department of Environmental Protection, building community partnerships, working with grassroots groups,
Mhm.
engaging with faculty, staff, students, and alumni. And so when people learned that I was creating that career for myself, people were interested and wanted to find out how they could do something similar. So again, that's how I got into the career development space.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. And I love that story. And I love how your career progression is because it's not linear. Is you take a little bit of this, you take a little bit of that, and you put it in a pot, stir it up, see what comes up. You may have to give it a few tries, maybe, but that's how a lot of people get to where they are. I think a lot of people tend to look for that one path, which kind of leads me to what you're doing now as far as how you help job seekers, your career, because you're an executive coach. So I know that you work with,
A lot of the folks I'm working with are really exploring what it looks like to be the best leader they can be. So
mm,
much of the time, people who are good at what they do get elevated into roles of director or vice president or executive director, what have you. And they haven't necessarily had training or support to learn how to do that, not just in general, how to do that, but how to do that authentically as them, tapping into their strengths and their personal qualities. And so, through the work that I've been doing with One Life Tools, I've been learning how to help people create insight based on their lived experiences so they are more clear on what they want, who they are, what's important to them, and what direction they want to pursue. And so I use that in my work with executives to help them really step into their leadership potential, to be more effective and confident as leaders within their organizations and their careers.
oh, that's excellent. Now, I know you have a methodology that you've been working with in recent years that's a little bit different. You don't have to go really deep into it, but maybe you were telling me a story like right before we began recording. If you can just share that story about how this one person came to, like, had a came to come to Jesus moment, so to speak.
Sure. So I was at an event and it was for people in the startup world, entrepreneurs, innovators. It was a networking event. I connected with somebody there and we kept in touch. I connected them with an opportunity to be a
Hmm.
mentor for some innovation students at Boston University. And from there, this person ended up becoming a client of mine.
Hmm.
They were at a crossroads in their career trying to decide whether to go all in with their business as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur or whether they should focus on getting a 9 to 5 job. And they were really grappling with that. So, through coaching, what I was able to do with this client was help them engage in storytelling to really hone in on what they have to offer, what's important to them, and what they are most curious about exploring for their future.
Hmm.
And so, leading up to some work together, I set them up with what's called Online Storyteller. It's a tool from One Life Tools,
Hmm.
who I originally connected with through the National Career Development Association. And by helping this client add stories to this online portal, they were able to create all these data points, develop what's called a clarification sketch about their desires, their personal qualities, their possibilities, and so forth.
Hmm.
And so we were able to really supercharge our time together because they had already gone in and added all these storylines to the portal. They
Hmm.
had all these data points in their clarification sketch. And so we had this running start for the work together. So then we engaged in the prioritization so that they could create their personal statement. And by the end of the day, we had done so many things together that they said, Erica, I'm unstuck.
That's excellent. And that's what everybody wants to do. They want to get to a point to where it's clarity and it's about, and I know you've got a book that's coming out that helps people with your methodology. I guess you'd say a hybrid methodology, right? You're pulling from one place and you're pulling from another place, and you've created something that people can go and say, okay, this makes sense for me to now pursue this, not maybe just for now, but maybe for the next careers that they have.
Yes, you were talking about nonlinear careers. And I
Right.
think it's so important for people to realize that many of us have nonlinear careers.
Hmm.
And so in my first book, Clarifying What Matters, Creating Direction for Your Career, I share about my own journey and success stories from some of the clients who I've supported.
Hmm. Yeah. And we hope that your book will be coming out soon, as you stated. And I know how tough that can be when you think you finished something and then all of a sudden you get something from the editor who said, we need to make these corrections. So,
Indeed. Working on a book, I have found, and many of my clients are also engaged in their own book projects.
mm,
One of the things about it that I've realized is it's a great lesson in how to not be too much of a perfectionist.
right,
Because you could just be working on this book project for your whole life and never publish it because you feel like it's not good enough.
right.
Meanwhile, nobody is benefiting from the information that's in that book, the
Mhm.
inspiration, the stories, the content. And so it's very important to say it's time to get it out there and have people start using this
Mhm.
so that it can benefit them.
Right.
And so that's the journey that I've been on as I've been working on this book project.
That's excellent. Now, what's your website? Tell
It is
people what to.
ericamadison.com. That's ERICAMATISON.com. And I would love to connect with your listeners. They can
Mhm.
set up a clarity call. They can participate in my career development masterclass. And there's a lot of content on my website for them to take advantage of as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Erica Madison, for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers. And for the rest of you, thank you very much for joining me in this conversation. You're going to enjoy some other conversations that come live, depending upon what order I'm going to end up publishing this in, that you have enjoyed and are going to continue to enjoy the live stuff that I'm bringing here from San Diego. Thank you very much. And peace and about love.